Hey folks, how we doing today? It's me again, Shannon Fox here, Devoted Patriots 2 channel, and I've got a clip here for you. I want to bring y'all from none other than Matt Gaetz on the House floor, throwing up who he wants to pick for Speaker of the House. Hint for you, Marjorie Taylor Greene said the same darn thing, and they're not the only ones. There's actually several people getting on board with the idea of none other than uh, future President Donald J. Trump becoming temporary Speaker of the House. They were talking about him doing it for about 3 or 4 months in order to get the House in order, and then he could turn it over to Jim Jordan or somebody of that nature. Maybe they could figure out who they wanted by then, get all these appropriation bills worked out, get a lot of this Ukraine funding, spending crap thrown out the window, and all the things that Trump would do if he had the opportunity to get in there. It is a real possibility. But there's also the other possibility that it could be Steve Scalise, who is I would say he's great. He's been a party whip in the past, and he is really good about bringing people together for legislations and things. He is conservative, but I would say he is one of the more moderate conservatives. He gets along pretty much with everybody, and I'm glad for that. And then there's the other possibility, which I'm looking to be probably I would say 80% chance it's going to be Jim Jordan, Speaker of the House, which would be awesome as far as I'm concerned. He stands his ground each and every time. I prefer Trump, be honest with you. I think that would be awesome just to watch the salty tears roll down the faces of the libs while they scream in tears. Rah! Not Trump. But as is, folks, Trump could do a lot of good and even help his own self with his legal battles by combating the DOJ with the power of the purse. That would be awesome, folks, just to see Trump get his karma like that. But at any rate, there's actually 5 different people it could be as contenders for the Speaker of the House. But right now we have got Trump that said he would be willing to get involved if necessary, which is awesome. He said that coming out of court. Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise have thrown their hat in the ring, which I would say are probably in the running. It's either going to be Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, or even possibly Trump. Let's go ahead and read a little bit of this article, folks, before I get into what Matt Gaetz has to say on the floor of the House. It says President Trump is reportedly considering a trip to Congress ahead of the next week's vote for the next speaker vote. Trump confirmed on Wednesday that he had been approached about the possibility of becoming the next Speaker of the House of Representatives. Speaking to the reports outside of the New York City courthouse, Trump said he would be willing to take on the role, emphasizing his commitment to doing whatever is best for the country and for the Republican Party. That's awesome news. Just in, Donald Trump confirmed from the New York courthouse that he has been asked about becoming the Speaker of the House, and he said he would do it. That would be epic. Just reading you a tweet over here on the Gateway Pundit. There's so many people that would be happy with Trump as temporary Speaker of the House, including myself. It says former President Donald J. Trump is considering a visit to the Capitol next week where he is open to pitching himself as Speaker candidate, according to a Republican familiar with the internal discussions. And on a little footnote of that, let me just say that Trump has already been in phone conversations with Jim Jordan. He is willing to back Jim Jordan, or is I'm sure at this point they're going to hash it out and figure out who's the best man for the job and put it up there and see who they think can actually get the votes and unify the party. If it happens, Trump would come Speaker to the House GOP sometime before lawmakers' internal Speaker election, which is set to happen on Wednesday. That person said a final decision hasn't yet been made. The full GOP will meet Tuesday for an internal candidate forum, meaning they're going to get together, try to hash it out. That way when they do actually get back in the chambers, they'll go, we know what we want, this is who it is, and be able to get their people to coalesce together and vote without having to do multiple votes. It is not clear if Trump, the front runner for the 2024 presidential primary, would actually run for Speaker. Winning would require near unanimity from the House GOP, meaning they would all have to vote for him. A difficult hurdle for the controversial former president, because there are some rhinos and some haters in the House that are just not fans of Trump. That's a fact. And one of his closest Hill allies, House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan, is already in the race. Jordan told NBC that he discussed his speakership bid with Trump earlier this week. Kevin McCarthy was ousted as Speaker, and mostly by Matt Gaetz filing a motion to vacate and then exposing Kevin McCarthy. It was a 216 to 210 vote. If you don't already know, it only took 216 because a couple of people weren't present, so it didn't have to hit the 218 mark. There were 8 Republicans that sided against McCarthy: Biggs, Buck, Burkett, Crane, Gaetz, Good, Mace, and Rosendine. And there are several others that would have as well. I've heard talk since then, but just actually wasn't necessary at that point. Says the House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan on Wednesday announced his bid for the speakership after Kevin McCarthy was dethroned, and said he would no longer try to run again. And that is just great news. No more Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy will no longer hold a seat of power in the House, and probably not in the Senate or anywhere for future reference. I think Kevin McCarthy, in his 9 months of being Speaker, has shown the American people that he's not a great leader. He knows how to get along with most people, but in reality, he's not there to take care of business, and that's the problem. Now let's go ahead and get into a little more than the spectacle.
Taxes were cut, regulations were slashed, energy was abundant, wages were rising, capital was returning from overseas to fund the dreams and ambitions of our fellow Americans, and the economy was roaring. What a contrast to what we have seen from this administration now. And so I rise to nominate Donald Trump for the position of Speaker of the House.
Yes.
And for all of the vitriol that we hear from the media and at times the left, there were great moments of bipartisanship under the Trump presidency. And the Democrat nominee for Speaker knows that well, because he led valiantly on the efforts for criminal justice reform, and I was honored to join him. And I know no matter who's sitting in that Speaker chair, we got a lot of work to do on that very issue. We took a first step, but there's a second step and a third step to take, and I'm glad that we were able to work with President Trump, with Republicans, and with Democrats to provide real outcomes for Americans, to create greater prosperity and more opportunity. I also care deeply about President Trump's focus on our nation's veterans. It seemed for far too long on the campaign trail, veterans were disregarded, forgotten about. When we would get elected to office, their issues would not always rise and get center stage, but we were able to pass veterans accountability measures. We were able to actually get people fired at the VA who weren't doing their job. What a great thing that would be to extend and continue to nourish. President Trump oriented our views on trade so that we actually put the American people first, not foreign interests abroad or special interests here at home. President Trump knew that we had to confront China, that China had already engaged in a trade war against us, but it was a war that we were surrendering, and so we started to fight back. He stood with our farmers, and on foreign policy, we stopped trying to find a new Jeffersonian democracy to build out of sand and blood and Arab militias in the Middle East. Matter of fact, President Trump, I believe, is the first president in my lifetime that didn't start any new wars. This is an issue that I know unites some elements of the right and left for the benefit of our communities.
He's got some great points there. Trump did a lot of things that, even though the Democrats have got orange man bad Trump derangement syndrome, Trump did a lot of things that a lot of Democrats would have voted for if it wasn't brought up by Trump. Not all Democrats, I have to believe, are crazy. I believe there's a lot of neocons on both sides. I believe there's a lot of progressives on both sides, a bunch of crazies that think they ought to change the Constitution. But in reality, I think there are sane people on both sides of the fence in both parties. Maybe just a few on the Democrat side from what we've seen lately. But I remember when Trump was able to get some bipartisan support in the Congress because he had good ideas, and that was the yeast in the bread. That was what made it work. And I would love to see that again. I would love to see somebody that could even just bring a few Democrats around to our way of thinking, and we could get so much more done. Just because we do have that slim majority in the House. So Trump 2024, if not sooner. And when I say if not sooner, I mean Speaker of the House, Trump. What do you think? Tell me in the comment section below who you think would be the best for the Speaker of the House. Jim Jordan, Scalise, or Trump, or throw in who you think would even be better than that. Kind of like Matt Gaetz myself, but I like to hear him get up there and chew them guys out.
Will the House be in order? This government for far too long has been deeply corrupt. This town has been deeply corrupt. The way people get leadership positions and chairmanships and opportunities to be able to morally preen has been by accepting lobbyist and special interest money and redistributing that money as currency for favors. And that is not a criticism of either political party. It is a criticism of what we have allowed to happen in this place. And if we just go next man up on our side of the aisle, we will reify that corrupt system and we will abandon the people who are expecting us to fight for them. I have heard from my colleagues about all the important work we have to do, and it is my sincere fear that if we were to allow Mr. McCarthy to assume the speakership, that would not get done. That it would be business as usual, and the very same things that have paralyzed progress for both parties would continue to shackle us to never-ending failure. We can be better than that. We can raise our gaze indeed. We also have to restore to the Speaker's office an actual person that ought to be in the Speaker's office, not the squatter who is currently there. And if the architect of the Capitol is listening, I sent a letter, and I would like to know.
He's talking about the pro temp right now, the guy that actually kicked Pelosi and that other Democrat out of their extra offices that they shouldn't have still been in, considering they lost their jobs as Speaker, or as she lost her job as Speaker. Kevin McCarthy, I guess, didn't have the cojones to tell Nancy Pelosi that there was no reason for her to still be in that office or her staff to have their own office.
Know what the basis is to allow somebody to occupy the Speaker's office who comes in second place 10 straight times. Is there like some basis in law or rule or precedent for that? And so I nominate President Trump because we must make our country great again, and he can start by making the House of Representatives great again.